On the 12th of January 2023, the United States Office of the Director of National Intelligence published the unclassified version of its 2022 annual report on unidentified aerial phenomena. But what relevant information does it contain? And does it shift the paradigm of the entire UFO/UAP community? Last week we got so engaged, and maybe digressed a little, that we had to split the episode into 2 separate weeks. So join us here on Aliens Explored as we continue to delve into this extremely dry document to try and sort salient facts from speculative supposition, picking up from where we left off last time. This episode is dedicated to our explorer of the week, Israel. Why not follow Israel's example and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Aliens Explored. Your support helps us keep on doing what we do best.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
And picking up from where we left off last time, the episode continues.
Yeah, in the executive summary, it does say that there has been a total, as of 30th of August 2022, a total of 510 UAP reports. Now, I can tell you that probably in America alone, you'll get more than that reported every day. So they're saying there have been a total of 510.
So does it go into who's actually reported where these reports come from?
Yes, it does. On page 5...
So it's not harvesting it just from the public, from public reports of things.
On page 5, it says the majority of new UAP reporting originates from US Navy and US Air Force aviators and operators who witnessed UAP during the course of their operational duties. That's one I've got to come on to later. But yeah. 510. That was another one I had marked on the executive summary. So yes, it's increasing. They're saying 510, which strikes me as incredibly, incredibly low. But I still think, even though you're absolutely right in what you're saying, people are not being laughed at. They're being taken more seriously. I still think, because these are from military people, there will still be an element of military mindset, a hesitancy to report UFOs. UAPs, call them what you will.
No, I don't think the military
much less than they used to be. Much less.
No, I think if you're involved in air defence and you pick up something, whatever system you're using for detection, you pick up something that you can't identify, that's a red flag. You sound the alert. There's something out there that I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but if you've seen it, it's not on any instrumentation, it's not on any cameras or anything like that. It's just literally something you have witnessed yourself. I still think there'd be a hesitancy to... I'm saying it's much, much, much better. And again, these videos that the Pentagon released from the USS Nimitz play a huge role in destigmatizing the entire subject. And absolutely, that's definitely moving in the right way. I just think, so I do some work with sort of ex-military people, and I know how that mindset can get. And anybody standing out from I'm preaching to the converted, I know very much here, with you, Neil, but to stand out from the crowd and say, I saw something that was bizarre that I can't explain, that would still be... Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine a lot of people would still be hesitant.
Well, I think the first question that will be asked will be, well, how come no one else saw it then?
Yeah.
What
And
did
I
you
think,
see that no one else saw? I mean, military bases are crowded places. You don't often get. It's not often. It'd be quite a coincidence for a service person who just happens to be on their own somewhere for some reason, not with their usual group of people, their co-workers. That's when they see something in the sky.
and there's also, I mean, this might be my perception, and my perception on this may be completely and utterly wrong, but I imagine in that machismo environment, there's still going to be, A, people taking every opportunity to take the piss out of other people, and B, not wanting to be the one taken the piss out of.
That's very much the case. Yeah, it's a very toxic environment.
So, in light of that, the fact that we now know it's military personnel, 510. That's a hell of an increase, and good for it. Good for it. Okay, so the third thing I wanted to mention on the executive summary was the opening sentence of the last paragraph. UAP events continue to occur in restricted or sensitive airspace, highlighting possible concerns for safety of flight or adversary collection activity, which is exactly what you were talking about. Collection activity. Now, what might oh god, no. Do you know what I was going to say? That might not count as surveillance, but I'm not going down that route because we'll end up talking about a load of other things. So, page 3, the scope and assumptions. I personally have no comments on that particular page.
Well, that last bit of the last sentence will continue to investigate any evidence of possible foreign government involvement in UAP events when they're talking about surveillance activities. They're not, it doesn't mention.
Sorry,
anyone.
This is on scope and assumptions.
It's on page 2 on the executive summary.
Oh, sorry. Back on that, right? Yeah.
The last thing it says, they'll continue to investigate when they're talking about these events occurring in restricted or sensitive airspace, with highlighting possible concerns for safety of flight or adversary collection activity. We'll continue to investigate any evidence of possible foreign government involvement in UAP events. So I think primarily they are concerned about a foreign adversary, this UAP being a foreign adversary on some kind of spy mission.
They know that UAPs aren't theirs, which they would know, and they're going to continue to collect evidence on it.
Unless in foreign government you also, unless in foreign government you also include the Galactic Federation, who they've decided is an adversary, but they don't actually say that. I think they're very much talking about
as a foreign. Yeah, a foreign government, a foreign agency.
It would, It would, but I don't think that's what they mean. I bet if you walked into your general's office and say, do you mean possibly the Galactic Federation or the Borg or whatever, they'd say, well, not really, we're thinking more of the Chinese.
We know they want to downplay the whole and ridicule the concept of it being extraterrestrial, but we also know that they're not ruling it out either. They're choosing wording very carefully.
They're specifically not saying it, but this, as we pointed out, is the unclassified version. What's in the classified version? Is that what they say? Yeah, we think the Galactic Federation is keeping an eye on us, and
I mean, it does mention that those 510 reports are basically in the classified version, so we know we know that is in there. We don't know what else is in there. Absolutely. But yes, scope and assumptions all looks very sort of boilerplate standard to me. Nothing jumped out. Did anything jump out at you from page 3?
It's hard to read. It's your eyes start watering and it's
your brain starts melting after a while, doesn't it?
The assumptions paragraph at the bottom of page 3. That's an easier read. multiple factors affect the observation or detection of UAP, such as weather, illumination, atmospheric effects, or the accurate interpretation of sensor data. So, they still conclude, they acknowledge that a select number of UAP incidents may be attributable to sensor irregularities or variances such as operator or equipment error.
Yeah. To me, it's just stating the obvious there. If it's cloudy, you're less likely to see something. Equipment malfunctions may cause things. Yeah, that's all fairly obvious stuff, to me, anyway.
But if you're picking up something that no one else can see, then the assumption is that either the equipment's gone wrong or that it's not being used right. That'll be the first assumption.
I think there's always a danger in making such assumptions, but yeah, absolutely. Page 4. The only thing really here for me was the establishment of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the ARROW government department, basically. The thing is that we've had so many different government branches, government departments. Most of them have been secret at the time, Project Blue Book and what have you. But I suppose, this is not the first time that it's even become public, because you've got ATIP that was the Advanced Aeronautical one. But then that was less specifically about, it was about UAPs, we know that, but it was less advertising that it was about UAPs. So to me, it's a gradual step towards, they're just acknowledging that UAPs exist. And we're getting steps along that way. So the fact that department was formed,
there's never been any doubt that UFOs or UAPs exist. It's just what they are and where they're from. That's what's at issue, isn't it? That's what we're discussing, whether this stuff is just mundane terrestrial stuff or whether it's actually come from another planet or dimension.
It's obvious to the man in the street, but 20 years ago, hell, 10 years ago, you would not have got a government official to publicly admit that.
At the height of the Cold War, when things were really on a knife edge at times, our air defence generals wouldn't have admitted that sometimes something comes up in the sky and they don't know what it is.
I'm talking much more recently than the Cold War, though. They wouldn't have.
But that attitude would have persisted. It would have still been the same people. No, we're not going to talk about the stuff we don't know. The stuff we want. The message we want to put out there is that we're defending our skies, and nothing gets into our airspace without us knowing about it.
Air superiority.
And occasionally
admitting now they haven't got that.
Well, no, occasionally there'll be something which we don't know what it is. And sometimes we can't find it, but people report all kinds of things they've seen. Might be a balloon, it might be a paper bag blowing through the air, it might be the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, might be a flying saucer.
Might be a flying saucer, but
one never knows. But yeah, anything else on page 4 that jumps out at you for you there?
Not really.
No.
It's fairly dry stuff.
It is very much. A lot of this report is. But quite often, if things that seem overly dry, I start to wonder, well, is that because there's something in there that they want to bury? But it's the unclassified version, so if they wanted to bury it, they'd just put it in the classified version, I suppose. But anyway, on to page 5. Continued reporting and robust analysis are providing better fidelity on UAP events, but many cases remain unresolved. That's just the title of this section, which is pretty much an essay in itself.
Yeah.
But this goes into some really interesting elements. So from July 2022 to August 2022, they had 366 newly identified reports. Now, some of these they've been able to attribute. 6 of them were attributed to things like birds, weather events, plastic bags, that sort of thing. 163 were characterized as either balloons or balloon-like entities. So they're not saying it is a balloon, but it looks like a balloon.
No,
so
I mean, I think people have stopped setting off sky lanterns, haven't they? I think
it still
have been made aware.
But...
It still happens. I mean, I've got a couple of sky lanterns, which I'm not going to let them off, but or I'll tether them. But yeah, people were made aware that the danger they present to wildlife when they come down again.
Certainly, they don't happen anywhere near as much as they used to. But no, I mean, people put up weather balloons and things like that. It does happen.
Or just party balloons. Give a kid a balloon filled with helium and they let go of it. There's another, and it's got a silvery reflective surface.
Yeah, that could show up on radar or whatever. Absolutely. So, 163 of them categorized that way. 26 categorized as unmanned aircraft systems, or like UAS or UAS-like entities.
People flying
and
drones.
They mean drones. That's exactly what they mean by that.
Yeah.
But that said, so you take the recent UAPs that were shot down, and the first one, they said it was clearly an unmanned device. Are they trying to sort of bury that as... Would that come into these 26? Because that wasn't a drone.
Well, it still leaves an awful lot of, say, the remaining 171 uncharacterized and unattributed UAP reports. Yes. Say some of them appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis, but they really lack the data to say what it is.
So of 366, nearly half, not far off half of them, they said, we haven't got a clue. We've ruled out balloons, we've ruled out drones, we've ruled out birds or weather or,
No, I don't think they are saying. With half of them saying, we've ruled it out. But the other half, they're saying, well, we can't really rule those out. We can't say for sure that was a drone or a balloon or whatever. We don't know what it was.
Well, I'm looking at the wording very carefully, and they're saying characterized as unmanned aircraft systems or unmanned aircraft systems like entities. 163 categorized as a balloon or balloon-like entity. What they're saying is 171 of them do not have those characteristics. They don't have the characteristics of a balloon. They don't have the characteristics of a drone.
No, what they're saying is those 26 UASs, 163 balloons, 6 clutter, they've been able to confirm that that's what they are. The remaining 171, they've not been able to confirm that that's what they are.
I'm going to dispute this really strongly, because if they knew, for example, it was a balloon, they wouldn't say
that's the thing.
Characterized as a balloon or a balloon-like entity.
Well, yes, it could be a different kind of balloon. It might be a helium balloon, it might be a hot air balloon, it might be...
But what they're saying in that is we might not know what it is, but it sort of behaves a bit like a balloon.
No, they're saying we saw it was a balloon.
Into that category.
It was a hot air balloon or a sky lantern or whatever you want to call it, various things.
So
it was
why
something
are they including
like that.
Balloon-like entities as a descriptor?
It depends what they class. They might class a balloon as just a party balloon or a helium-filled balloon.
Yeah.
They might not class a bag of hot air as a balloon or a.
I don't know. All right, I'd have to ask further exactly why you differentiated between balloon or balloon-like entity. What do you mean by balloon, and what do you mean by balloon-like entity? But what I'm saying is the ones that are uncharacterized, it's not because they don't fit into any of these characteristics or these categories. I'm saying it's because they weren't able to get close enough to them or see them well enough to actually characterize them. They might well fall into those same categories, but we can't say for sure.
It does say specifically, and I get, these reports and this reading is, as we keep saying, very, very dry, but it does say very specifically, initial characterization does not mean positively resolved or unidentified. It just basically...
It doesn't mean either. So they're saying... We're saying we're not saying positively it is, and we're not saying it's unidentified either. Yeah. We're saying we think this is what it is, but the others we don't know. We don't know enough. I think we're this is a real hair splitting episode. This one, isn't it?
It really.
What do they mean by mean?
But yeah. So yes, 171. They can't categorize as a balloon or a drone. Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting. To me, it's a huge amount that. And like I say, it does say, as mentioned earlier, the majority of new UAP reporting originates from US Navy and US Air Force aviators and operators. Now, for me, it does go on to summary it in the way ahead, but to be honest, it's like, yeah, we're just going to continue recording and reporting. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. But nowhere in this report does it say, maybe it does say in the classified one, but nowhere here does it say, we're concerned that we're being monitored by other entities, people from other dimensions or planets who have capabilities way superior to ours, who could wipe us out if they decided to. And we're seeing evidence that they're here. They're looking at they're encroaching on our airspace. There's nothing that says extraterrestrial.
So my question in response to that is, do you think they would come out and directly say something like that, even if it were the case?
Not in an unclassified report, no. But they're not even hinting at it. They're talking purely of, hazards to air traffic and possible intelligence gathering, but no suggestion. They're not naming any names.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not even saying. They're not even highlighting who would be the potential adversaries who might be able to do this.
No.
Which I suppose shouldn't surprise me. But if the US thought that they had a potential adversary who could encroach on the US airspace without, with impunity, that would be setting off alarm bells everywhere.
Well, this is where it gets quite interesting. So for me, this whole report, it's pretty much saying very, very little.
Well, there is something I really picked up on the bottom of page 6.
Oh, and
they're talking about flight safety concerns and health implications. So saying, they obviously pose a hazard, a collision hazard, to what they call air assets, potentially sometimes requiring aircraft to adjust their flight patterns to dodge these things which are operating outside of air traffic control standards or instruction. But there are also health concerns. There have also been no encounters with UAP confirmed to contribute directly to adverse health-related effects to the observers, acknowledging that health-related effects may appear at any time after an event occurs. So they're going to track any reported health implications related to UAP should they emerge. What do they mean by that?
It means they're not ruling out... So we have talked about various cases, various abduction cases where people have spontaneously developed cancer, or as an example. They're not ruling out that sort of thing. And they're saying we're going to look for it.
Someone who saw some craft that it emitted such a bright light and heat that it gave him a suntan, or it gave him a radiation burn.
Yes, he got the basically burned on one side of his face, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't Travis Walton? Who was it? I can't remember now off the top of my head. We talk about so much.
It's just a vague memory that someone. So I guess they're talking about that kind of thing.
Was it Terry Lovelace?
I don't know, but given that they're saying most of these things have been spotted by US military aircraft, US Air Force and Navy pilots, it would have to be a really weird thing. I saw this thing in the sky, it glowed really bright, then disappeared, and then a week later I developed a tumour.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that they're saying they'll continue to monitor it suggests to me that they see the possibility of it. Now, if you were talking specifically about craft from Russia, as an example, or China, they'd be less concerned about that, wouldn't they?
Sorry, less concerned about what?
About potential long-term health implications of observing.
Yeah, I mean, usually if you come up against an enemy aircraft, your health concerns are very short-term indeed. That you're not going to be worried about the long-term effects of, as you go into old age, of encountering an enemy aircraft. You're going to be worried about what's going to happen in the next minute.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But they talk about, there have been no reported collisions between US aircraft and UAP. Well, I thought the reason why they called it UAP rather than UFO was to allow for things that aren't very substantial, like a trick of the light. Well, no, an aircraft can't collide with a trick of the light. But if that UAP was actually a UFO, then a solid object, it could collide with that.
If you see a white cylindrical object flying through the air at 40,000 feet, can you call it an aeroplane? No, you can't. Can you call it a helicopter? No, you can't. Can you call it a zeppelin, a hot air balloon? You can't call it any of those things. Or you can say, you can't even say for certain that it is a craft. It is just it's still a physical object, but that would be a phenomena until you know what it is.
I'd say if it's a physical object, then that's a UFO. That's the definition. It's a flying object.
It's that whole thing, isn't it? All UFOs are UAPs, but not all UAPs are UFOs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, UAP it's expanded to allow for tricks of the light and atmospherics and
it is,
the weather,
but other things as well. Yeah. But that's a good catch. It's interesting that they do talk about the health, long-term health.
A meteor shower is not an unidentified flying object. It's an aerial phenomenon, isn't it? It's something you see in stars in the sky are UAPs. They're not flying objects.
I don't know if I would call stars unidentified.
Well, yes.
Stars.
if you don't know what it's called, then if you see a star in the sky, that's
enough.
To you. That's an unidentified. But it's an aerial phenomenon, isn't it?
It is. It is absolutely. Yeah. But for me, the biggest thing about this report, and to me, it's an absolutely huge aspect to it, is the fact that it exists at all. That's massive to me.
I think it's just an annual air defence summary.
It's not an air defence summary, though. It's a report on unidentified aerial phenomena. It is an acknowledgement, and like I say, you go back 10 years, there's no way any government would have publicly stated that UAPs exist. Those videos from the Nimitz were a complete paradigm shifting event. Completely and utterly. It was world changing, because here a government has said there are these objects flying through the skies with flight characteristics that we can't replicate, and look, here's videos of them to prove it. That is incredible. So now Pandora's opened a box, and we now know that these things exist. So now they're doing annual reports about that. All right, the report itself might not really say much, but the fact that the report exists at all as an unclassified document is the government's acknowledgement that UAPs are out there, that there are things flying through the skies of this planet that they cannot determine what they are. And they even say, as you rightly pointed out, some of these things exhibit flight characteristics that are, unexplainable. That's more I think about that as a statement in this report, that's a bold statement to make.
But I wonder if it's also to do with America being more secure in its air superiority. That back in the days of the Cold War, they would never say that there's craft coming into our airspace and we don't know what they are. It might be the Russians who have leapfrogged us in technology again, and we can't replicate what they're doing. They wouldn't want to say that. That's giving comfort to the enemy, if nothing else. But now they know that there's no way that, I'm sure they've got a very tight finger on the pulse of what's going on in China, what's going on in Russia. They know what their capabilities are. And I'm sure they're confident that US technology is way ahead of anything that they've got, that they can't encroach on our airspace, except in innocuous ways. They can send a balloon over and claim it's a weather balloon. They can send a satellite over because no one seems to mind a satellite or is prepared to do anything about a satellite.
There are thousands upon thousands of satellites around the planet already, so yeah, who'd notice an extra one?
Well, I think they would. I think they've got them all. They've got them all catalogued.
I think yes. Yeah. I'm speaking very tongue in cheek when I say that. But that whole air superiority thing, that to me makes it less likely they would publish a report like this than more likely.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to admit that there are things flying through your skies that you have no control over and you can't predict and you can't really do anything about, which is what this report acknowledges.
But it will always be in the interest of generals to highlight some kind of threat that they need more resources to counter. And the more resources they get, the more money they get, the more men, the more troops they get, the more important they become. Oh, and you better promote me another rank, just to make sure. Say you got someone, you haven't just got a major general in charge of this. You actually got a full 4-star general. Better make me a general.
Yeah,
just so you got this thing under control. They have the military have an incentive to identify threats.
I absolutely get that, but you can do that through classified documents. You don't need to be unclassified. You don't need to be telling the general public.
In a democracy, I think to an extent you do, because it's public money that is going to be spent on the military. The public will know how much is being spent on the military, and you need to convince them there's a good reason for it. Well, so you need to tell them what the threat is, what the threat you're worried about is, and what you need to combat it. So, you got to get the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail on board, saying, "Oh, yeah, we need to. Yeah, the government wants to spend an extra 45 billion this year on military, on top of what they're already spending, and there's a good cause for it."
I would say there's already enough black projects going that will be sunk costs anyway. Well, you never notice it.
The thing with black projects is, they have to be funded out of the petty cash or slush funds. it's like do you remember Ollie North when he wanted to get arms to the Contras in Nicaragua? So he had to do arms deals with the Iranians to get them to raise the money was he getting drugs, getting heroin from Iran and selling it and get raised. It was standard CIA stuff. You're gonna deal drugs, raise money to buy guns for this band of outlaws somewhere that you're supporting. A bunch of murderers you decided are operating in your interests, or they're going to murder people who you would actually quite like to see murdered. So that's the work of that's what the CIA do, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's put this to our listeners to decide what they think. Is it just a way of getting more funds that they've produced this report, as Neil has suggested, or is this indeed a further step along the road to disclosure, as I'm absolutely digging my heels?
I know you are.
What do you think, listeners? Do let us know. You can contact us via the usual means. You can contact us on Facebook and Twitter or YouTube by searching Aliens Explored. You can get in touch with us by email, aliensexplored@gmail.com. Or if you're one of our Patreon patrons, then you get exclusive access to our Discord server where you can discuss this, express your opinions freely with like-minded, or sometimes people who will disagree with you as well. But lots and lots of lovely folk on there to chat to. Join us next time, though, when we'll be going back, all the way back to Roswell, New Mexico, and did the alien entity known as EBA, that's extraterrestrial biological entity, a survivor from the crash at Roswell, actually exist? That'll be a good one for us to get into, so don't miss that one.
To Roswell. We've got to do it every now and then, haven't we?
In the meantime, keep looking into all these government reports, no matter how dry they are. And of course, keep watching the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Fomes. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.